Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
It is with great pleasure that I announce, as daimyo of Fire Country, that the Godaime Hokage of Konoha has been decided. Cheers chorused through the area as Akira greeted the crowd of nearly 200,000 people. The decision process my colleagues and I went through was a grueling 6-month process, but we have come to a decision in which we believe will serve Konoha the best going into the future. Looking down at all of the patient people, Akira decided to get to the part that everyone was here for. Without further ado, I will state that the person chosen to become the Godaime Hokage is one who has the Hokage title in his genetics. His mother is a member of the sister clan of the Ginjaa, and his father was none other than the Yondaime Hokage. May I present to you, your new Godaime Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki. As Akira said this, Naruto used the body flicker to appear on the platform. Stunned silence filled the area before raucous applause erupted. The large majority of this was coming from the civilians in the crowd. They had seen Naruto win the most recent Chunin exams and thought that he was very good. The shinobi, however, especially the jonin that weren't already aware of the decision-making process, were very skeptical. Sure, they knew that he had potential, he was a very promising shinobi, but to give him the position of Hokage? Well, that was definitely something that they did not see coming. Hearing a colleague questioning if the people in charge had gone senile, one Enko Mitarashi spoke up. Hey, don't question the kid until you have seen him in action. I was one of the Chunin exam proctors, so I had to read up on his file, and I have also done a few missions with him, so I know him fairly well. The Gaki is an absolute freak. 12 months ago, he was a genin without a team. 6 months ago he won the Chunin exams and killed a Jinchuriki. These days, he is already a jonin-level shinobi who could hold his own against pretty much any shinobi in the village. It's clear that they are trying to play the long game with giving the brat the role. Just imagine, if he went from genin to jonin in a year, just how strong will he be in a year's time, 5 years' time, a decade? Plus, also, the kid is just starting to hit puberty, so he will continue to grow even stronger. Not that I'm not disagreeing with you, but can't make someone Hokage with just potential. They need to be a highly skilled ninja before they take the role. How can he defend us if, say, Iwagakure come and try and start the next war? I'm sure those cunts will do anything to kill the son of Yondaime-sama. The jonin replied back to the purple-haired woman. I bet they are going to have Jiraiya hang around a fair over the next few years to be a threat to any villages who think we are easy pickings. Plus, we also have our Jinchuriki, who is a master of all 5 elements, and he has enough chakra blow up multiple mountains. Thanks to Naruto killing the Jinchuriki from the Sand Village, we didn't lose as many people as we could have. True, I guess we will just have to see how this works out then, huh? These next few months will definitely be interesting. As this conversation was going on, one person in particular was cheering the loudest. That was none other than Rock Lee. Yash Naruto-kun. Your flames of youth burn brightly. I shall support you in your new role, and if I cannot, then I will do 1,000 pull-ups, and if I cannot do that, then I will do 10,000 sit-ups. Tenten had long tuned out of her teammate's speech. Instead, she focused on what was in front of her. Never in a million years, if someone had told her in the academy that Naruto Uzumaki would become the Hokage, would she have believed them. Naruto wasn't even the best in the class. That title went to Neji, plus he didn't even have a team for a year. She was happy for him, but wondered whether or not there was someone else who was a bit more qualified for the role. She was happy for Naruto, but to be honest, it made her feel a bit inadequate about herself. Naruto had gone from genin to Kage in the same space of time that she barely managed to go from genin to chunin. Is the gulf in skill between the two of us really that much? I mean, we haven't been on a mission together in a long time, but he can't be that good, can he? Oh well, at least he is cute. I haven't been getting much luck from Neji, so it might not hurt to ask out Naruto-san. Much like Tenten, Neji didn't quite believe that Naruto had the skill required to become the Hokage. He saw the potential that Naruto had and noticed how much he had improved from the genin exams to the chunin exams, but he was not at the level of what was required to be a Hokage. I must ask him to spar with me. I need to see how far off I am of that level. A Hyuga of similar age on the other side of the area was Hinata. If she was completely honest with herself, she was a bit disappointed. She knew that it was Konoha Marukuin's dream to become the Hokage, and with someone as young as Naruto taking over, it all but ended his chances of becoming the Hokage. She knew Naruto was strong, however, and hoped that he would lead Konoha into great prosperity. Kiba, who was looking, had a large amount of jealousy flowing through his body. He wished he was the one up there, getting all that attention and fame. He didn't believe that the kid who was in the chunin exams was good enough to become the Hokage of Konoha. He had improved a lot over the past 6 months and just got the rank of chunin. The Inuzuka wanted to challenge Naruto and see how good he really was. The Aburame clan heir was impressed that Konoha was willing to make such a progressive choice in Hokage. He was interested in seeing how Naruto as Hokage would play out. He hoped it was for the best. Kurenai, unaware of what her students were thinking, had her own opinion on Naruto becoming Hokage. When she tested Sasuke on his genjutsu, she was impressed, but it was nothing remarkable. Naruto's was even worse, she imagined, given that the boy didn't have the Sharingan. She wasn't exactly thrilled with the choice in the Hokage, and that was not because she was going to never hear the end of it from Asuma. Guy, for his part, was proud. Although Naruto was officially Asuma's student, he couldn't help but have pride in Naruto becoming the Hokage. After Naruto healed Lee of his career-ending injury, Guy had been teaching Naruto on how to make his bloodline limit as devastating as possible. Within 6 months, Naruto was the second best taijutsu user in the village, and the only reason Guy still held on to the top spot was due to the 8 gates. In a pure taijutsu battle, the only people that he knew could go toe-to-toe with Naruto would be Hayashi and Kakashi. You would be proud, Minato-sensei and Kushina-sensei. Naruto has become a fine young man that everyone can rely on, and I wish you were here today to see him stand on that platform. I hope Naruto gets the reign as Hokage that you should have had, sensei. I'll do my best to guide Naruto to making the decisions that are best for the village. XXX. After the celebrations had died down, Naruto quickly got back to business. The final term of the year for the Shinobi Academy had just ended, and now was the best time to enact his first change as Hokage. Please bring the entire academy staff into the meeting room, Anbu-san. Naruto stated, watching as the ninja went off and did their job. Shortly after giving the command, the newly minted Kage headed off into the same meeting room. Now you might be all wondering why I brought you here? Naruto said to all of the teachers, giving a small smile to his own teacher Suzume from when he was in the academy. Firstly, I just want to congratulate you all on doing a good job. I know a lot of people don't give teachers the credit they deserve for guiding the next generation, as you're not just teachers but also role models. I know this from first-hand experience that I wouldn't be where I am today without the various role models I have had in my life. As he said this, all of the teachers had a smile on their faces. It was no secret that many people looked down on teachers, the famous saying being, those who can't do, teach. It felt great for the Hokage to tell them how good they were doing at a normally looked down upon job. The reason why I have brought you here, though, is because I want to completely overhaul the academy. Naruto let that sink in the air for a few moments and waited for someone to speak up. That was Suzume. Hokage-sama, what do you mean? Suzume bravely questioned. You can just call me Naruto-san, Suzume-sensei. The blonde Kage said with a smile on his face, causing the shy woman to blush slightly, happy that the Hokage called her sensei still. It filled her with great pride. For too many years, Konoha has been far too reliant on individual brilliance to win wars. Whilst I definitely believe that the contributions of the larger military force were significant, as a hidden village, we rely more on our elite shinobi compared to our enemies. If we can raise the quality of each shinobi, we will become less reliant on creating the next Minato Namikaze. How do you plan on changing that, Hokage-sama? Irika questioned, slightly hesitant to hear the answer. Naruto smiled. In a nutshell, I plan on redeveloping the curriculum taught in the academy to focus less on theoretical knowledge and more on practical skills. I know that my appointment to Hokage will be seen as a weakness in the eyes of the other villages. As much as I don't want to prepare the students for war, I would rather prepare them for it and not require them to participate than to force them when they are not sufficiently prepared. The cold truth was a bitter pill for Naruto to swallow. He did not like having admit that he had to do this. The pragmatic side of him though knew that this needed to be done. To do this, my plan is to move away from one teacher teaching one-year group for the entire year. Instead, the model that we will be going towards is the secondary model for civilians where you have a teacher who specializes in one subject teach it for all year levels. But how would the children react to that? They have dependency issues and wish to have a single teacher. The younger the age of the person, the abler they are to adapt to change. There will be a few teething issues with this system, but the end result will be better. The current academy system from my experience is flawed in the sense that it places too much emphasis on becoming a good shinobi on clans and the jonin sensei once they graduate. For a child like myself who came from the orphanage and didn't have any form of shinobi background to call upon, I was at a severe disadvantage to the likes of Niji Hyuga, who was the rookie of the year in my class. They could not deny that Naruto was right. Children that came from a clan had a noticeable advantage over civilian children. Also, there are different learning styles that differ between children. So just like the elite civilian schools, you will be sent to personal development courses which will allow you to tailor your classwork for each individual student so that they can get the most out of their education. Naruto, as he said this, noticed that Suzume and Irika were smiling. It's obvious to see that they care about their students. Irika seems like is going to take this challenge head on, which is great to see. Hopefully the others will come around. If not, are there any suggestions on how we should structure the curriculum, Hokage-sama? Irika questioned whilst the teachers looked on, eager to see how things would change. Well, teaching is not my area of expertise, so I will leave it mostly up to you, but here is the base outline of what I would like. Remember, this is the initial consultation, so we will have a few more meetings over the next month and a half before school goes back to finalize everything. We owe much of our academy's material to the Senju clan as they had the largest private library of any ninja clan. At the time though, they didn't really have a budget to fund an expansive academy like what we do now. Sorry Naruto-san for interrupting, but did you mention something along the lines of a budget increase? Suzume questioned, giddy with excitement. All of the other teachers in the room also looked on with eagerness. Seeing the looks on their faces, Naruto smirked. He knew saying something like that was akin to saying free buffet right outside the Akimichi clan compound. Yes, there will be significant increase in academy funding. Back to my main point though, the academy was funded on a smaller budget, therefore they had to cut some corners. The Senju clan have 5 different taijutsu styles. One of them became the one you know as the Academy Taijutsu style. Each of the 5 taijutsu styles represent an element, and it is why I found it very easy to learn the Academy Taijutsu style as it is based around the fire element. For someone who had a wind element, it would make it significantly harder to learn the something that would be much less effective than if they learnt the wind-based taijutsu style. I want to implement the 5 taijutsu styles to the curriculum and based on an elemental affinity test, teach the student their taijutsu. This would also segue into ninjutsu training. I don't think it is out of the question for an academy student by the time they graduate with the proper guidance, to learn one offensive and one defensive C-rank ninjutsu from their respective element, given I managed to do this one from leaving the academy without a teacher. Teaching elemental ninjutsu to an academy student? Isn't that a bit much? One of the teachers in the room questioned. It seemed like quite a lot to take in. Children at these ages are surprisingly adaptable to new forms of stimulus. The worst that we can do is trial this for a semester and realize that it is hindering their performances in other areas and revert back some of the curriculum. The meeting went on for another hour, hashing out a few finer points of that would give the academy to work with. With everything finished up, and people looking to leave the room, Naruto spoke up. Just one last thing before you leave, he said, getting their attention before continuing on. By the way, effective immediately, you are now on 6-month temporary contracts at the academy. At the end of semester 1, you will have a performance review, and if you are not up to the standards Konoha expects, you will be removed from the academy and put into active duty. See ya. Naruto said before using the body flicker jutsu to leave with a few embers left in his wake. It was widely known that the academy was seen as a place where you could relax and slack off. Quite a few of the teachers started to panic. Irika, for one, was the complete opposite. Bring it on! XXX. Knowing what was going to happen that day, Jiraiya didn't bother sticking around to see Naruto get coronated as the Hokage of Konoha. Instead, he headed off in the last known direction that his spies had reported his former teammate. Jiraiya agreed with Naruto in that Sarutobi-sensei had spent a lot of time giving Tsunade preferential treatment, spending time outside of the village. With Konoha being hit recently by the sand invasion, they needed every bit of help that they could get to regain their position in the world. This was especially so with Naruto taking over as the Hokage. Sure, he had a lot of faith in the boy and knew that he had the potential to become a great Hokage, but as of now, Naruto was Jonin level material, not Hokage. XXX. Naruto stood in the private Hokage training grounds, theory crafting his 2 new jutsus. A month ago, Naruto saw some civilian kids playing a video game through a shop front window and noticed that 2 of the kids that the 2 characters they were playing as were made up of bones. Always interested in new ways to potentially use his bloodline limit, Naruto walked in and came over and watched them. After giving a quick introduction, the kids were happy to have him watch them play. Naruto then offered to pay for the next 2 hours of playtime as long as he could talk to them for about half an hour beforehand about said 2 characters they were playing as. One of them was apparently called the Skeleton King and the one was called the Bone Fletcher. This worked out well for Naruto as one was ranged shooter and the other was a melee ranged fighter. In tandem, he hoped that they could be a significant threat to an enemy. A month later and Naruto had managed to do the easy part. That was creating the warriors externally out of his bone and using his chakra to make their bodies work. The hard part was the next bit. Naruto knew that he wouldn't be able to control this jutsu whilst also fighting an enemy. He needed it to become sentient. Naruto needed it to be able to listen to a command and then go off and do it without him having to oversee every move. Thanks to a bit of help from his not-girlfriend Ino Yamanaka, Naruto had a few new ideas that he wanted to try to get these jutsus working. Channeling the advice that Ino had given him, Naruto went through some hand seals and placed his hands on the ground. Uzumaki Hijitsu, Sukuru Tankinku. Uzumaki Secret Style, Skeleton King. Much like the last few times that he had attempted the jutsu, Naruto watched on as the skeleton came to life. Naruto was giddy as he had even managed to create a cape for the warrior. Unlike the last few times though, Naruto noticed that there was fire behind the eyes of the skeleton. "My name is Leo Rick and I am at your service, my liege," Leo Rick stated as he bowed down, digging his sword into the ground. "Fuck yeah! This is awesome. Alright Leoric-san, I want you to fight me and show me everything you have got." With that said, the Skeleton King charged. XXX. "Well, it didn't take as long as I thought to find you again, Tsunade-chan," Jiraiya commented with a grin on his face. Grunting at the sight of her former teammate, Tsunade replied. "What is it that you want, Jiraiya? Have you come to buy more of the Senju compound with your riches from that stupid perverted book series? Geez, can't you be happy for my success rather than be jealous?" Jiraiya replied back. He wasn't really in the mood to play these games. Affronted by the comment, Tsunade had a look of disgust on her face. "As if I would ever be jealous of that filth." Jiraiya shrugged his shoulders and rolled his eyes. "You're coming back to Konoha," Jiraiya said with a neutral expression on his face. "PSSHH, no, I am not Jiraiya. There's no way I am going back to that wretched village," Tsunade flippantly responded to Jiraiya, before turning around and giving her attention to the poker machine she was in front of. "Alright then, I guess we will play this the hard way." Seeing that Tsunade was still not paying any attention to him, Jiraiya turned and faced Shizune. Said woman got fearful. This Jiraiya who was in front of her was different from the jovial one that she met up with months ago. This was one of the Sannin. Shizune, you are officially ordered by the Godaime Hokage of Konoha to return back to the village. If you don't return via your own choice, then I will make you return by force. Jiraiya said, laying down the threat. This was enough to moderately sober up Tsunade and take an interest in the conversation. What the hell, Jiraiya? Your problem is with me, not her, so leave her out of this. Plus, what did you say about the new Godaime Hokage? I guess that must have got some new fool to take the hat, huh? Who is it? I bet it's that Gaki Kakashi. Ignoring Tsunade, knowing that she was trying to redirect the conversation, Jiraiya focused on the easiest way he knew how to get Tsunade back to Konoha. That was through manipulating Shizune. Look, maid, don't make this any harder than it has to be. We are still reeling from the blow dealt by the sand invasion, and we need to get as many qualified medics as possible to help out. Also, Shizune, the new Hokage, is looking to change the curriculum at the academy, so we will need some guidance from someone experienced like yourself, Shizune, on how to effectively incorporate medical ninjutsu into the academy curriculum. Jiraiya said, knowing that this was a trigger topic for Tsunade. You've got until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning to make up your decision and meet me at the edge of town heading towards Konoha. If you aren't there, I will know that you have decided to become a missing ninja of Konoha, and I will track you down and bring you back by force. Even if that means going through Tsunade to get to you. Jiraiya said before vanishing in a flicker of leaves. The second that Jiraiya left, Tsunade's eyes turned and zeroed in on her student. Noticing this gaze, Shizune spoke up. Look, Tsunade-sama, I need some time to think for myself. Shizune said before vanishing, much like Jiraiya did moments before. A feeling of emptiness rocked the blonde-haired woman to her core. Feelings of betrayal flooded through her body, and her heart felt like it had been ripped out of her chest. Damn, Jiraiya having to ruin everything. Why does he have to take the last bit of happiness away from me? Also, who the fuck is the new Hokage, and who do they think they are, threatening us like that? If Shizune has to go back to Konoha, then I will go back and rip their throat out. XXX. News traveled quickly in the news that Konoha had made the ninja who had killed her little brother Kage hit Temari like a ton of bricks. How can I gain revenge for killing Gaara if he is the Hokage? Is he really that strong? Was he holding back when he fought against Gaara? There's no way one can go from genin to Kage in 6 months. Arf. Temari screamed as she swung her fan in outrage as a desert mountain, nearly slicing the structure in 2 clean parts. If he managed to become a Kage, then so can I. I will just have to train hard and get the position when Baki-sensei is no longer the interim leader. XXX. It wasn't just Sunagakure where the news of Naruto Uzumaki becoming the recent Hokage of Konoha. Kumogakure had also heard of the news. The Yondaime Reikage, was both impressed and curious as to how someone so young managed to become a Hokage. Sure, he knew that the boy was the enemy of his rival, but it was a stretch to say that this Naruto kid was as good as his father. Samui-san, I have a mission for you. You shall be the ambassador to Konoha. That Kagaya bloodline would definitely strengthen our village if Samui managed to get her hands on it. Ever the opportunist, I thought of the best way to increase the strength of the village. XXX. Curse you, brat, why did you have to go and make my life so difficult? Anoki muttered to himself. He desperately wished that Naruto was not the Hokage. This was not out of fear that the boy knew the flying thunder god jutsu no, this was because he knew exactly what his retarded daimyo was going to do when he found out the information that Naruto was now the Hokage of Konoha, much like his father was several decades ago. Might as well get this over with. Anoki thought to himself as he started writing down the names of 10 jonin who he knew greatly despised the yellow flash. It was almost clockwork that by the time that Tsuchikage had finished writing the names down on the paper, the Earth Daimyo entered the room. Just shut up and take this piece of paper. It will tell you everything you will need to know. The daimyo was miffed at the treatment that Anoki was giving him but didn't question it. Now how bad will this clusterfuck of a situation turn out to be? XXX. Orochimaru was seething in anger. First, he had not yet managed to gather Sasuke back to his village. The boy apparently managed to fight and kill all of the Sound Four including Kimimaro. How that actually happened he was not sure, but he couldn't look past the evidence. Secondly, he had finally just finished healing from his recent body transformation, and in this time, Naruto had managed to become the Hokage of Konoha. I guess I am going to have to take Sasuke-kun by force, and I might as well kill another Kage whilst I am at it. XXX. Mae-sama, I have some recent news. It is in regards to Naruto Uzumaki. Ao said with frustration evident. It was clear to see that this was a sore topic for the man. Ever since Naruto managed to evade the Byakugan with that cloud of chakra-laced smoke, he wanted to redeem himself and capture the ninja for the betterment of Kirigakure. Oh, and what is that? May questioned with a smile on her face. Ao had no idea whether or not that smile meant that he was about to die though. I have just gotten word that Konoha has promoted him to Hokage. Nothing screamed that he was Hokage material earlier when I faced him though, so I have my doubts to his skill level. He is fairly young and still a kid in my eyes to be a Hokage. Kids, fairly young. A twitch appeared on the face of May. Shut up Ao or I'll kill you. XXX. Jiraiya was waiting at the spot he told Shizen about. He had not seen either of the two females since the day before. Tsunade for her part had tried to find Jiraiya, but much to her dismay, she wasn't able to. The blonde-haired woman was beyond frustrated. For the first time in ages, she didn't drink any alcohol from the moment that Shizen left her. Thoughts had plagued her mind. The paramount thought in her mind was that she was not going to influence Shizen's decision, no matter how much she wanted to. She knew that she put her apprentice through a lot over the past decade and a bit. She had to sacrifice a hell of a lot to over the time. Tsunade doubted that Shizen had even had experienced the joys of sex due to her having such a limited social life out on the road. If she was completely honest with herself, she knew that the life that she was currently living was a shell of the one that she could have been living. One that both Dan and Nawaki would look down on her for. It was the reason why she said thanks but no thanks to Orochimaru a few months ago. Whether or not she would return to Konoha, Tsunade was not sure. Her gut feeling told her that Jiraiya was not going to relax if she said no a second time. Speaking of her former teammate, he was acting completely different to the way how he normally acted. Normally, Jiraiya would do something perverted, in an exuberant manner upon meeting her. As much as she hated the perverted side of it, Tsunade privately admitted to herself that she enjoyed the enthusiasm and energy he showed. He was the only one out of the three that wasn't broken. It was gone last night, and when Tsunade saw Jiraiya, he instantly looked 10 years older, despite having seen the man merely a month ago. The woman was worried for her teammate. No matter what had happened in life, he was always jovial and happy. What was it that made him change? She questioned herself the night before and she couldn't come up with an answer. Throughout all of the time she had known him, Jiraiya had seen her at points which were far worse, and yet he stuck around and was still her friend. Now, however, she was not too sure. Tsunade, as she followed Shizen without the woman aware, she wondered what she was going to do. As she mentally said to herself, if Shizen was going to be forced back into the military, then she was going to go back to Konoha and pulverize the new Hokage. If her former teammate wasn't going to tell her who it was, then she was going to find out herself. Can I please see your Konoha registration cards, please? One of the two Chunin gate guards questioned. Hesitation evident on their faces. They had a good idea who two of the ninjas standing in front of him were, but he had to make sure. Sure. Jiraiya replied, having a grin on his face. Tsunade merely grunted whilst giving her own. Shizen politely smiled and handed hers over. Once the tasks were done, they quickly received the cards and headed for the Hokage Tower. Tsunade was eagerly awaiting this moment. On the journey back to Konoha, Jiraiya had remained tight-lipped in regards to who the Hokage was. It only served to make the blonde-haired woman even more curious. The other thing that she was curious but also concerned about was that Jiraiya hadn't made a single perverted remark or action, even to the point where she hadn't noticed him peeking on her when he thought that she wasn't looking. To be completely honest, it unnerved her. Something had distinctly changed in the dynamic between herself and her former teammate, and she was not sure what it was, but she was fairly confident that she didn't like it, even if it did mean no peeking. Shizen was also curious as to what it was that made Jiraiya change. From everything that she had heard about the man over the years from Tsunade, seeing him in the flesh was completely different. He was nothing like the person who her master had told her about, and yet she had no reason to believe that the Sannin would lie. Let's get this over with. I don't want to be here any longer than I have to, Tsunade stated, with a determined look on her face as she quickly jumped onto the building roofs. The other two shinobi quickly followed after her. Wait, Tsunade-sama, the new Hokage may have a meeting. Shizen called out to her sensei as they arrived at the office. Unperturbed in the slightest, Tsunade angrily walked to the door. I don't care, and launched a chakra-enhanced punch to the door, shattering it on impact. ANBU members immediately dropped down from their positions, surrounding the Hokage. Looking up from the paperwork in front of him, which was about integrating the civilian workforce into military positions, Naruto sighed as he realized who it was. He had been briefed by his sensei on what to expect upon meeting Tsunade. He was not afraid at all. You're paying for that, you realize, Naruto said with a dry look on his face. Thankfully, Naruto wasn't doing anything sensitive before Tsunade barged in. You're a kid, Tsunade said, finger pointing and all as she stared at the choice for the new Hokage. She honestly couldn't believe that they got some kid to take over the most important role in the village from her former sensei. Shizen was in a similar state of shock, but she didn't dare voice her opinion. I am also the Godaime Hokage of Konoha, Naruto replied back with an annoyed look on his face. Over the past month, he had constantly been getting used to the fact that no one respected him in the position due to his age. The only difference now was that this was more blatant. There's no way I can respect someone who hasn't even finished puberty as the Hokage of Konoha, the blonde-haired woman said before turning around and preparing to walk out of the room. This must be some sort of sick joke, putting a child in charge of a shinobi village. Jiraiya, did you have any say in this? As this was said, a pointed stare was directed at the silver-haired man. Then you will officially be labeled a missing ninja of Konoha, and I will order Jiraiya to detain you and lock you up in our maximum security prison before getting Inoichi to extract every bit of information from your body, the new Hokage coolly stated, staring the woman down. Affronted at the suggestion, Tsunade turned around. Just for saying that, I am going to bash your head in, you spoiled brat. Someone ought to teach you manners. Naruto wasn't concerned. How about you put your money where your mouth is? It was enough of a statement for Tsunade to stop and raise her eyebrow, demanding the Uzumaki to continue. How about we have a fight, and if you win, I will allow both yourself and Shizen to leave, all duty to Konoha will be erased, and we will even write off the remaining bout of debt you are in. And what if you win? Tsunade questioned, although she was fairly confident she had an idea what this boy would want. When I win. Naruto made a clear point to emphasize the when, not the if. You and Shizen will agree to spend the next 10 years inside the village. Shizen will either work at the hospital or go on active duty. Tsunade, you will take up the role of Director of Health, where you will be in charge of the Konoha Hospital. In addition to this, you will liaise with the Academy Director to help introduce a new curriculum which emphasizes medical ninjutsu training to all students, not just one designated student per team, Naruto said, still with the straight face. Kid definitely knows how to poke the trigger points in people, Jiraiya mused to himself. Every single thing that Naruto mentioned that she would be required to do were changes that Tsunade herself had advocated for many decades ago. This was not something that Tsunade was missed either. It was clear that either he had done his research or was at least making the most of the information presented to him, trying to manipulate her. Alright Gaki, let's see what you got right now. If you win, I agree that I will become the director of the hospital, but if I don't, you will waive everything and I will be on my way. After the Senju woman said this, the first sign of emotion appeared on the face of Naruto, a smirk. I wouldn't have it any other way, Tsunade-sama. XXX. As they were walking over to the private training ground, Naruto started channeling fire chakra throughout his body to warm it up. That way he could go all out from the start and not have to worry as much in straining a muscle. Tsunade wasn't doing such a thing. Instead, she was going over in her mind the things she knew about the boy standing beside her. From the little she remembered from the Chunin exams, the boy had some form of bloodline limit and he could use the fire element fairly well. She still couldn't even remember his name, hoping that would give more away about the upcoming fight. Despite her initial surprise that Naruto was barely a teenager and that she wouldn't respect him, Tsunade was no fool in thinking that the kid would at least have some talent to back up being put in the chair. She highly doubted that Konoha had managed to create another Itachi, but it wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility. Having said that, she had seen what Naruto was capable of at the Chunin exams when he had killed the Ichibi. If that was his maximum skill level at the time, then there was no way, despite whatever training he had done up until now, there was no way that he was a Hokage-level shinobi. "Are you ready?" Naruto questioned as he broke the blonde-haired woman out of her reverie. He was eager to get this battle on. This was the first time that he was going to go up against the caliber of Tsunade, and he wanted to see where he compared. Whilst he had fought A-ranked ninjas before, it was a significant step up to fight against an S-ranked ninja. Sure, he had fought Jiraiya, but with nothing being on the line each time they sparred, it didn't mean as much to the aspiring Uzumaki. "Yeah, you're 100 years too young to be able to beat me, kid," Tsunade boasted despite settling into a taijutsu stance. Admittedly, she knew that she could have trained harder of the past few years, but she thought that the fact that she was at least sober would get her over the line. Naruto wasn't taking any chances though. "Gate of Life, open," Naruto internally called out as he opened the first of 8 gates and rocketed off of the ground in the direction of Tsunade. As he was sprinting to Tsunade, Naruto quickly activated his bloodline and had bones spurt out in every direction. Surprise filled out Tsunade as she had forgotten about the fact that the new Hokage had the bloodline of the Kagayas. Shit, this just got much harder. He is even capable of channeling fire chakra into each bone. Tsunade thought to herself as she did her best to dodge Naruto. It wasn't enough. Caught by the surprise at the speed in which Naruto moved, Naruto was able to drill one of the bones in his arm into the shoulder of Tsunade. He got a good enough hit to the point where half of the bone had dug in and caused blood to spurt out. "Ah!" Tsunade cried out, shocked at the amount of pain she was in at having a chunk of flesh being ripped out. As she did this, she couldn't help but look at her arm. The end was essentially sealed with this moment, as the moment that the blonde saw blood, she went catatonic. Naruto wasn't aware of this though and continued on with the fight. Using the blade at the base of his palm, Naruto slammed it right through the left kidney of Tsunade and channeling fire chakra into her body, spreading it all over. Before Naruto could do any more, Jiraiya came over and pushed Naruto to the side. "This fight is over and the winner is Naruto. Shizun, get over here." The late 20s woman didn't need to be told twice and went over to her master immediately and started healing her as best as she could. Releasing the Gate of Life, Naruto turned around to Jiraiya. "What? Why did you stop the fight? We were only just getting started," Naruto said with frustration evident on his face. "I didn't think that Tsunade would still be affected by it, but she developed hemophobia, the fear of blood. The second she sees any blood, she goes into a state of shock and is unable to function." Shock appeared on the face of Naruto as he couldn't believe such a thing for someone as accomplished as Tsunade. "Really?" Seeing the head nod from Jiraiya, Naruto frowned. "Well, I guess that was a bit of a letdown. I was expecting more from your former teammate. Look, I have to get back to the office unless you want to do the paperwork for me?" Naruto questioned, to which Jiraiya merely scoffed. "Well, catch ya around, sensei," the blonde said before disappearing, leaving a few embers in his wake. XXX. I want you to spread the rumor of what you saw today. Don't mention that the fight was cancelled due to her hemophobia, but do spread that I won. Public perception was key for the role of Hokage. For Naruto, it was an area where he definitely needed improvement on. It was not that the shinobi and civilian populace hated Naruto, it was just that they didn't believe that he was capable of the job. To the ninjas, they had seen the performance during the Chunin exams, and whilst it was impressive, to think that one could go from potential Chunin to Hokage in 6 months was absurd. He remembered his speech from his inauguration 1 month ago. Flashback. Naruto bowed to the daimyo, thanking him for his previous announcement. As he walked to the stage with chatter happening around him, Naruto looked over at the people that now looked at him for protection. His people. Stealing his nerves, Naruto spoke his first address to the village. Firstly, I want to say thank you to those past and present who have given their lives and so much more to the village. I hope that I can follow in their footsteps and do Konoha proud. As was previously announced, my father is the Yondaime Hokage and my mother is from the Uzumaki clan. I, however, was unaware of this until very recently. Unfortunately, like a lot of other kids, I came from the orphanage with the dreams of merely surviving. As I was able to achieve that goal, I was able to progress to dreaming for something bigger, harder to accomplish. Today, that goal of merely surviving as an orphan child has turned into protecting the village and turning into a place of prosperity. For too long, since the Kyuubi attack, Konoha has been living in a shadow of what it once was. We have been struggling to return to our rightful place on top of the ninja food chain. When the attempted kidnapping of a toddler happened by Kyumogakure, we had to sit back and watch as one of our loyal, respected and talented ninjas had to make a noble sacrifice to ensure that Kyumo didn't go to war with us. In addition, when we finally got back to a respectable level, Konoha was hit with the joint invasion from Suna and Oto. Thankfully, with the prevention of the Jinchuriki releasing his demon, Konoha didn't suffer as many losses. My point is that our enemies no longer fear us. We don't have a ninja such as Hashirama or my father Minato Namikaze to instill fear into the other villages like we once did. Instead, we have to rely on the will of fire more so than ever in teamwork to win battles. The first change that I am making as Hokage is a radical overhaul on the academy. No longer will children from a clan have such preferential education in becoming a shinobi. The academy will be a lot more expansive, allowing students who come from underprivileged backgrounds to get the education that every child deserves. It will be harder but also easier in that it won't be a generic one-size-fits-all scenario like it currently is at the academy. The academy will be working both the Yamanaka clan and also civilian psychologists who study children learning patterns to come up with the most effective learning style for each student. Also, there will be a minimum graduation age to allow for time for the mental development of our shinobi to prevent something like Itachi happening again. Because if you constantly judge a fish on how well it can climb a tree, it will go its whole life believing that it is stupid. Murmurs broke out after Naruto stopped speaking. Talking ensued on the first point that Naruto had made as Hokage and the solution that he provided to resolve the issue. For many years, many shinobi had believed the academy to be a joke in teaching potential ninja. It focused far too much on civilian theory for the shinobi. They hoped that what their new Hokage was talking about was a bit more hands-on. On the other hand, they heard how he was going to be in consultation with civilians on how to run a ninja academy. That didn't sit too well with them. The thought of preventing another clan massacre at the hands of a gifted prodigy though was something that they could get behind. In addition to these changes at the academy, there will also be changes into the administration of Konoha's military. Many positions in the administration of the Konoha military do not require the ability to mold chakra or be fighting fit. The moment that Naruto said this, the eyes of many civilians lit up but also caused a significant amount of genin to get worried. There were more civilians than genin though. To increase the number of shinobi that Konoha can call upon, we will be reviewing the structure of the military. If it is deemed that your role is something that does not require any shinobi abilities, your role will be open to the public. You will be able to reapply for your job. Pure outrage came from the shinobi and utter joy came from the civilians in Konoha. How can we trust a civilian to know anything about the military though? One Chunin who used chakra to enhance his vocal cords so everyone could hear him shout it out. Naruto replied, wanting his point to be made loud and clear. How can we trust shinobi? At the end of the day, we are all just human. There will be an extensive process in forming a security evaluation on each civilian that takes up a role in the military. The fact is that if someone who has no idea about how the military works and is yet able to do your job more effectively, then they deserve it and you don't. Roles such as finance, logistics, and resource management require little knowledge on the Konoha military. If it is easier to train someone with a degree and proven results in finance in the military than it is to a shinobi on everything finance, then we will do it because it is the best thing for the village. This is not to say that every single role will go to a civilian. There will need to be a balance, but the end result is that civilians and shinobi working in tandem to produce the best possible result for Konoha. End flashback. As Naruto broke himself out of his musings, he knew that the next few months were going to be crucial to his appointment as Hokage. Already, 2 reviews had started, one into the administration of Konoha and one into the academy. Soon there was going to be another one into the hospital. If there was one thing that the daimyo stressed when they had spoken in private, at the end of his first day in charge, it was that he wished for a cohesive Konoha. It wasn't just Konoha, but every single shinobi village had a great disconnect between the shinobi force and those that they were serving. Akira had mentioned a single quote that resonated with Naruto. The sum of the parts is greater than the whole. After hearing it and how Akira spoke, Naruto was blind for not seeing it earlier. Konoha preached the will of fire and how teamwork was the best way to live, and yet it was a massive hypocrite of this when it came to internal affairs. There was a severe us versus them mentality that Naruto wanted to get rid of. If they worked together, just like the ninjas did in the field, then it would benefit Konoha. A few shinobi had sparked a protest about the issue, but those funnily enough were only in the positions that field shinobi considered relaxed and you didn't do much work in. The large majority of shinobi, especially the jonin, were for making those doing nothing to get back out in the field or become a civilian. Small protests were immediately outweighed by large support from the civilian sectors, seeing a potential giant boom in the economy through the jobs becoming available to everyone. XXX. In a dimly lit bar sat 2 veteran shinobi. I still can't believe that a brat like him is the Hokage of Konoha. Tsunade mused over her sake in her hands. Jiraiya merely had a smirk on his face. Managed to beat you in 5 seconds. No matter who it is, I would say that is pretty impressive. He too had a glass of sake on the table. A scowl appeared on the face of the blonde as Jiraiya said this. He just caught me off guard. If I didn't have this stupid hemophobia, then I would have won that fight. She had to admit though that he was good. The speed in which he closed the distance and fought it was impressive for anyone, let alone a 15-year-old. That and the fact that he had the bloodline of the Kagaya clan flowing through him made him that much more of a dangerous shinobi. It was obvious to her that she had only seen the surface of Naruto's power, and she was curious as to how much more there was under the surface. Keep telling yourself that. Even if Naruto is not a Kage-level shinobi yet, it would still be an even fight between the two of you even if you were at your prime. The kid is real good, Tsunade, and has the potential to be one of the best. I'll give you that he is good, but that is a big claim to make, that he could be on the same level as my grandfather. He had to open the first gate to achieve the speed that surprised me. If it wasn't for the use of the first gate straight from the start, then he wouldn't have been fast enough to catch me off guard in causing blood to fall. Jiraiya shook his head. To start off, you haven't seen much of him yet. He still has a fair few tricks up his sleeve that he hasn't shown you. Also, I'm not basing Naruto becoming the best from where he is now, but from where he was a bit over a year ago compared to now. It was this that Tsunade was interested in. A bit over a year ago, Naruto was still in the genin reserves. Kakashi had failed him despite getting the idea of the bell test right, but his 2 teammates failed it, and thus Naruto was sent to the genin reserves. Jiraiya mentioned, and the blonde couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. For someone to go from a genin reserve to jonin level shinobi in 1 year was unheard of. In came little Asuma, who had a spot open up on his team due to a death, and Naruto rocked up. He gave Naruto an opportunity and the boy took it with both hands. Naruto didn't even know about his bloodline until deciding to treat himself with a bit of milk after getting the team. From there, Asuma has been teaching Naruto along with a few other people including myself. He went from being your run-of-the-mill genin with the ability to use one elemental attack outside of the standard 3 Academy jutsus and in 6 months went to the level of an upper chunin capable of killing the one-tailed Jinchuriki. Half a year later and you saw what he was. I would say he is a jonin bordering on elite jonin. Tsunade, he went from average genin to mid, verging on high-ranked jonin in a year. If you tell me that isn't the potential to be one of the very best, then you are full of shit. Surprised at the seriousness in which her former teammate talked, Tsunade took another look at the man in front of her. He really means a lot to you, doesn't he, being Minato's son and all? Tsunade said with a soft voice. She could only imagine what Jiraiya must feel like, having trained 2 Hokages. He does, he is the only person that I have left in this world and I want to make sure that he doesn't make the same mistakes that I made in life. Jiraiya said before bringing the sake to his mouth. He knew what type of response that this was going to get and he was prepared for it. This conversation is long overdue. What do you mean he is the only person you have left? Also, what mistakes? I never had a family like you, so I don't have any relatives alive. The closest person I had to a role model has died recently despite us having quite a few issues. Minato, who I viewed as my son in all but blood, has gone, same with Kushina. My former teammate has turned into an abomination of a human. Finally, my best friend, who also happens to be the person I was once in love with, has withered away and turned into a shell of her former self due to depression and alcoholism. Outside of Naruto and the Ika franchise, I don't really have anything positive going on in my life, so yeah. I am a bit defensive over the kid. Jiraiya admitted with a sigh. Shocked was the understatement of the century for Tsunade. She never had heard her former teammate open up about the things that were troubling him. The Senju believed it to be part of the whole macho man image that he had. Sure, she knew that part of the perverted act was indeed an act, but she didn't know how much else was an act. Tonight was the first time that she could remember really opening up and being serious. What do you mean an alcoholic? I am not an alcoholic. When Tsunade shouted that at Jiraiya, the man merely stared back at his former teammate. Really, Tsunade, you're going to tell me, the person who knows you better than any other person on the planet, that you aren't one? We both know it, whether or not you like to admit it. There's no point in trying to lie to me. Finally, my best friend, who also happens to be the person I was once in love with, has withered away and turned into a shell of her former self due to depression and alcoholism. Am I an alcoholic and depressed? As Tsunade thought over it, she realized that her behavior exhibited all of the signs of depression and attempted to cope by turning to alcohol. I am depressed. Tsunade had a startling realization. Jiraiya, who had seen all of this play out, he was hopeful. Hopeful that he would get his best friend back to her normal self. Seeing this version of Tsunade pained him immeasurably. He wanted the old Tsunade back. I know that this isn't something that you want to hear, but I feel as if it needs to be said regardless. Tsunade, the way that you have been living your life is not the way that they would have wanted you to live. They wanted you to be happy. I want you to be happy. Sarutobi-sensei would have wanted you to be happy. Can you please give my best friend back? I haven't seen her in the good part of 2 decades. Jiraiya pleaded, grasping onto Tsunade's hand, covering it either side with each hand, and stared into her eyes. The blonde woman couldn't help but stare into the raw emotion showing in the eyes of Jiraiya. She looked for a second before she had to turn away. The intensity on display was too much for her. He is right. Naoki, Dan, and Sarutobi-sensei all would want me to be happy. If they ever saw the way I have been living my life over these past years, they would be disappointed in me. Steeling herself as that it felt like a weight had been lifted off of her shoulders, Tsunade with a bright smile stared back into the eyes of Jiraiya. I do, you do. Tsunade quickly said before catching herself and realizing what she said. She's going to take over the hospital and become the director of health. Yes. Jiraiya shouted out in utter jubilation. That's the Jiraiya that I remember, so full of energy. Pretty much a kid in an adult's body. He didn't miss the slip of mouth earlier from Tsunade, but he couldn't care one bit. Ever since the announcement that Kushina was pregnant with Naruto, this was the best news he had heard. Without thinking, Jiraiya quickly got out of the booth, grabbed the hand of Tsunade that he was previously holding onto and yanked her out of the booth. The silver-haired man lifted the woman up and held onto her tightly as he twirled around. Jiraiya Tsunade screamed out, although there was no annoyance in the voice, only mirth. Tsunade mirrored the smile on the face of her best friend before grimacing. Immediately noticing this, Jiraiya placed her back down in the chair. "Is everything all right?" Jiraiya questioned. Still from the high of having what felt like the weight of the world lifted off of her shoulders, had a radiating smile on her face. "Yeah, it's just that I have to be careful with the stitches your stupid student gave me." Jiraiya chuckled, "That's Godaime-sama to you, Tsunade." For the first time in a long time, she let out a proper laugh. One that Jiraiya could tell wasn't faked at all. "Yeah, I suppose he is. I bet both Kushina and Minato are proud of him. He's the youngest ever Kage out of any village, isn't he? What took over in just before turning 15? Well, I'm not sure about the other villages off the top of my head, but yeah, for Konoha he is by far the youngest. Yeah, I don't think they could be any prouder of who Naruto has become." Pride was emanating of Jiraiya as his godson was the youngest ever Hokage. A thought popped up into the head of Tsunade. By the way, how did Naruto know what to bribe me with if I lost the bet? Despite already having a good guess, she wanted to hear it from her friend. I said to myself, what would the greatest person in the history of medicine do if she was to improve the Konoha healthcare system? Then I told Naruto that what I thought you would do. Touched at the thought as she didn't realize that Jiraiya knew her dream and succeeded in implementing it 30 years after she had originally proposed a draft version of the idea only to have it turned down. Her level of respect grew for Jiraiya tenfold with just a single statement. To think that he had remembered that after all of these years was something that she, admittedly, didn't expect of him. "Thank you, it means a lot to me." Jiraiya smiled, although she was fairly certain that again, for the first time in a very long time, she saw a red tinge to his cheeks. XXX. As the night progressed, Jiraiya noticed that Tsunade had not touched a single drop of alcohol from the moment of realization. The night progressed, and before the couple of ninjas realized it, they were sitting side by side on the Hokage monument watching the sunrise. Jiraiya realized at one point that Tsunade had fallen asleep on his shoulder with a big smile on her face. And just like that, everything comes back and I'm in love again. Fuck. Alright kid, so just to get things clear, I am not staying here in Konoha because of that stupid bet that we made. Tsunade said with a look of annoyance on her face. She didn't want to admit it, but the whole reason why she was staying here in Konoha was due to the night before. It was the happiest time she had had in a very long time. Jiraiya made her feel alive again and made her realize that the deal that Naruto had given her wasn't too bad, all things considered. "I don't care what your reason is for serving Konoha as long as I don't have to question your loyalty," Naruto replied back. "Now how do we go about improving the academy so that every single student is capable of using the mystical palm jutsu?" It was one thing to have heard it from Jiraiya, it was another thing completely to hear it from the young Hokage. It was surreal for the blonde woman, as this was something that she had been striving for so long to achieve, and it was now finally coming to fruition. Then she remembered what her teammate said yesterday. "Tsunade, the other reason why I need you to stay in Konoha is because of Naruto. Danzo is close to him and Naruto is fairly malleable at the moment and is being influenced by those around him. With me being the spy master for Konoha, I am not always in the village and can't keep an eye on what Danzo is going to do. Naruto also needs a female role model in his life. The only female in his life at the moment is his teammate, who is now a guardian ninja in the capital. Can you please be a role model for Naruto and guide him to do what is right?" Shaking herself out of her musings, Tsunade spoke up. "That's an awfully high standard to achieve, Gaki, don't you think you are biting off a bit too much?" Naruto shook his head. "I'd rather aim for the sun and only reach the moon than to aim for the clouds and reach the clouds." Tsunade couldn't argue against that. She agreed in what Naruto was saying, and it would only further serve to benefit Konoha if their goal was to have every shinobi capable of using the mystical palm jutsu. Well, the main requirement for medical ninjutsu at a basic level is chakra control. You need to be able to mold chakra properly if you want to be able to perform the technique well. Past that point, you need to have in-depth knowledge on how the human body works. From there, a discussion took place about how effectively transition the ideals of Naruto and Tsunade into the academy curriculum. Halfway through the meeting, Naruto requested the academy director to come in and also participate in the conversation. XXX. After the grueling hours that he had been putting in at the office, Naruto finally had a bit of time available to do something that he had been needing to do for a long time. The draft for the new curriculum for the new academy had been finalized, with there being another look in a week's time. Before giving it, the Green had taken over at the hospital and had been viewing the structure of the hospital before making any changes, and the plan to allow civilians roles in the military was going well. They had just finished with the requirements for the security clearance required to get the job. With everything set in motion for change in Konoha, Naruto now had the freedom in his role to focus a bit more on his training. Enacting on this, the blonde Hokage in his private training made a small incision with a bone and let the blood seep out. After going through the required hand seals, Naruto planted his hands on the ground and channeled chakra into the ground. "Can you please reverse summon me? I need to talk to Chrysalis-sama," Naruto said with a small bow. The scorpion did as much and reverse summoned Naruto to their realm. "Ah, Naruto, how have you been? Did you manage to obtain the title of Hokage?" It was no secret to Naruto after speaking with Jiraiya that summon animals bragged to other races about the strength of their summoner, who was essentially their reputation in the human world. Having Naruto become the be very good for his summons. "Yes, Chrysalis-sama, I have, which is why I have been very busy over the past month and a half and haven't been able to come here," Naruto said with a slight frown. He would have liked to spend more time here, but his other commitments had prevented him in being able to do so. "That is all right, Naruto-san. You're the leader of thousands of people and they need you in this transitioning time. Now, what is the reason that you came here for?" the Sand King questioned. Naruto paused for a moment before taking a deep breath. "I would like to learn about Senjutsu and the Scepter of Aghanim." The Scorpion King looked at Naruto for a moment. "I see. Whilst I do believe you are ready, Naruto, you must realize the last summoner to reach full Senjutsu was over 300 years ago. It will not be easy." Naruto wasn't fazed by this at all, instead it only gave him even more motivation. "That doesn't concern me, Chrysalis-sama. I don't mind how long it takes, all that matters to me is being able to protect Konoha to the best of my abilities." Proud of the answer, the Sand King spoke, "Very well, Naruto, follow me." Naruto did just that and allowed the summon to guide into a private chamber, deep beneath the surface of the earth. "In here is the Scepter of Aghanim. This is the pride of the Scorpion clan and our most prized jewel. Can you feel something different about this chamber?" Naruto was in awe of the scepter in front of him. The main focal point was an oceanic blue crystal in the center of it, and Naruto couldn't help but wonder about it. "I can definitely feel something different, but I am not sure what it is. One thing I do know is that it is radiating from that crystal inside the scepter." "Indeed, Naruto-san, what you are feeling is nature chakra. The fact that you can feel it when you are exposed to it is a sign that you are capable of potentially using it. Now your first step of training is to meditate." Whilst not expecting that his first lesson was to meditate, Naruto was not going to question someone who obviously had a lot more experience on a topic that he had. He trusted those around him as the Hokage to help him make informed decisions. "Then let's get to it," Naruto said with enthusiasm, as he had heard all sorts of awesome stories about Senjutsu from the old perv and he wanted to try it out for himself. XXX. "That was pretty awesome," Asuma said, affectionately stroking the hair of Kurenai who lay on his chest. "It was fairly good, I must admit," the ever-reserved woman said to her partner. It was the first time in 6 weeks that the duo had been in the same place at the same time due to their conflicting schedules as jonin. Due to the invasion, they had been going on as many missions as possible to mitigate the damage done. That in combination with the recent Chunin exams that happened which Kurenai went to with her team, meant that the couple had not been spending as much time as they would have liked together. So what's it feel like having been the sensei to the Hokage? Damn good. It feels like the world is justifying me for being an awesome sensei. Got all 3 students promoted in their first Chunin exams and then one of them became Hokage in 6 months. Kurenai rolled her eyes at the showboating. But don't you think he is a bit too young? I've been on missions with Naruto to know that he is a talented fighter, but 14 is a very young age to have the lives of thousands of people resting on your shoulders. The black-haired woman said with concern evident on her face. He may be. I guess only time will tell whether or not Naruto is too young to be the Hokage of Konoha. I do think that the support network around him will allow him to leverage the experience of those around him though. But I do think that it is going to negatively impact Naruto. He is naturally an introverted person, and with both Ino and Shoji going to the capital, Naruto doesn't have many friends here. That including his new role not giving him much time for socializing could hamper his development as a person. Asuma said with a sigh. When do you Ino and Shoji come back to Konoha? Kurenai questioned, knowing that Asuma missed his 2 other students. He had to think for a moment. 2.5 years, give or take. I believe that they signed up for a 3-year commitment. When they get back it will help with Naruto having friends in the same age bracket. Unfortunately for his skill level, everyone else that's skilled is almost double his age. But what about Konohamaru and Sasuke? Aren't they at a similar level? I mean, weren't they also in that candidate program? The female Jonin questioned as she moved her hand across the torso and towards the outstretched arm of her partner. Sasuke I am not sure about, but he is even more of antisocial than Naruto. Konohamaru on the other hand is taking the fact that Naruto became the Hokage and not him pretty hard. He doesn't really like hanging out with Naruto anymore since it's a reminder of his failure. But that's not fair on Naruto. You should probably have a talk with him when you get back from your next mission. Yeah, I will, but before that, I have some other arrangements in place. As Asuma said this, he grabbed a handful of Kurenai's ass with a smirk on his face. A raised eyebrow was all he got in return before a smirk appeared on the beauty's face. XXX. It was now 6 weeks since his inauguration as the Hokage and Naruto was in his office, looking over the paper in front of him. This looks very good. You guys have put in a lot of hard work. Irika was proud of what his Hokage had said. The change in curriculum was something that didn't happen very often, so he was glad that he could take a part and shape the way how he best thought to teach kids, something he loved doing. Yes, this is very comprehensive. Tsunade, also in the room, stated in agreeance. Despite not being here long, she was happy with the changes that were being made. From her point of view, the medical program started at the grassroots level. You couldn't just start it with Chunin and expect to get outstanding results. It was just like everything else in the world. The more effort that was put into something, the more it would flourish. The academy previously only taught students how to wrap bandages and create slings to hold a broken arm. Now, the new and improved course outline made it the mystical palm healing jutsu mandatory knowledge if you wanted to graduate from the academy. In fact, as she looked over the rest of the paper in front of her, the Senju couldn't help but be impressed with the ambition that Naruto had for the academy. The standards being set were quite high, but she thought that they were achievable. 1 offensive and 1 defensive C-rank ninjutsu of their respective element, a spar lasting 5 minutes, and a taijutsu only spar with a Chunin instructor using their new element-based taijutsu, resuscitating a fish with the mystic palm ninjutsu, 20 completed D-rank missions, and the ability to cast and dispel a C-rank Jinjutsu. This didn't even include the original metrics required to become a genin ninja. What the new Hokage found great about these standards was that once the students graduated from the academy, they would be ready to take C-rank missions out of the village. He particularly liked the idea of having academy students perform D-rank missions instead of genin. It would free up his force to do what they were trained to do, and it also allowed the academy students to learn valuable teamwork skills. They wouldn't get the money from the missions though, as that would be put back into the academy to reduce some of the cost of running such an expansive facility. The blonde knew, however, that with the requirements of the academy being much higher, it would be harder to graduate. There were two ways in which Naruto and the rest of the academy were going to attempt to combat this. The first was by lowering the age requirement to join the academy to 4 years, rather than 6. It would allow the students more time to gain competency in the required fields. The main way that they were going to combat the failure rate though was something radical which Naruto was very interested in seeing the results of. Instead of a grading system and moving on to the next topic when the allotted time had passed, the educational system in Konoha would model its curriculum of a competency-based rubric, rather than achievement. The greatest thing that Naruto learned from the civilian teachers that he had hired to oversee this was that when students are measured on grades, they care more about the grade rather than the actual learning that takes place in the classroom. With moving to a satisfactory/unsatisfactory model, it would hopefully eliminate the pressure to focus on grades and instead focus on the actual course content. Students would not move on to the next level in their training for that branch until they got a successfully completed mark from that respective teacher. In addition to this, Tsunade and Inoichi had both advised that the minimum graduation age regardless of ability needed to be 13. This was due to the physiological and mental development being occurring at the time, and Naruto trusted his advisors. He didn't want a repeat of Itachi. Even Kakashi, someone who was a great, loyal shinobi, had significant issues mentally, which Inoichi put a significant part of it down to the age in which he started at the entered the shinobi war. Well, we now have new curriculum to implement next week. I wish you all of the best as the future of Konoha is in your hands. Naruto said with a proud smile on his face, something that was mirrored by the teachers. XXX. After the day, which included approving the new curriculum at the academy as well as the new plan for the hospital, Naruto went back to his clan compound. Now that 6 weeks had passed since he was the Hokage, Naruto could finally say that a tiny bit of the pressure that came with the job had been lifted. After the conclusion of every day, he got that much more confident in his ability to lead the village. One thing that had happened quickly after becoming the Hokage was that Naruto terminated his sponsorship deal with the milk company. When signing the contract, never in a million years did he think that he would become the Hokage. With times changing and finding himself in the role, Naruto decided to end the partnership due to it looking bad on his image as a leader. That plus the amount of money he received in his salary was much more than what he was getting paid. It was a hit financially, but Naruto wasn't too concerned. As far as he cared, as long as he did well as the Hokage and kept his job, then his financial situation was all sorted. It was a weird feeling for Naruto. Ever since 6 weeks ago, all of his financial dreams had been accomplished. He was earning the type of money that 2 years ago, he could only dream about earning. In front of him was the proof of that. The temple wasn't just an empty worksite anymore. Thanks to him being the Hokage, the civilians he had contracted out to do the job dedicated more resources and time to complete the job sooner. The temple now had walls and a roof. It was finally starting to look like a place of worship, and Naruto couldn't be happier. His clan was getting rebuilt, and this was merely the first step on a long list of plans that Naruto had for the Uzumaki clan. Soon, within 3 months according to the builders, Naruto would be able to move in and live in one of the spare rooms in the temple. It would be during this time that Naruto would build a house also on the land that was now the Uzumaki clan. Despite the good work of the civilians, Naruto wanted to pull his own weight, so he did as much as time and skill permitted before he then went to train with his summon clan. "You can come out now. I know you are there," Naruto said whilst preparing his bloodline limit. He wanted to see who it was that dared to come to his home and uninvited and potentially attack him. "Very well then," the voice replied before making itself present. "Itachi," Naruto said with a sharp intake of breath. The second he saw the man, he gasped. The most surprising feature of the man was that he was not dressed in his Akatsuki cloak that Jiraiya had mentioned was a trademark of the group. Instead, he was wearing an ANBU outfit. "What do you want? Why are you here and why are you dressed like that?" Naruto asked. "What I want is for you to be aware of the truth. I want to know whether or not Danzo is told everything or if he and the rest of the elders plan to have used you as a puppet Hokage. Danzo-sensei, what did he do? I have heard from multiple people that he is a dangerous man but have received any proof and we run on innocent until proven guilty. Naruto said with a frown on his face. A noticeable frown appeared on the face of Itachi, which said a lot, given his demeanor most of the time. Danzo is your sensei? That is troubling that he is your sensei. Tell me, Naruto, have you heard of Root? When the young Kage in front of him shook his head, it was clear to him that Danzo wanted Naruto to be a puppet just from the little interaction that he had had with Naruto. Itachi then proceeded to tell Naruto what Root was and how much the organization had done to both positively but mostly negatively affect the village. To say the least, Naruto was shocked and infuriated when he heard this. Despite Itachi, one of Konoha's greatest ever criminals, nothing he said gave Naruto the impression that he was lying. He didn't know how to process the fact that there was a separate ANBU division that worked for someone other than the Hokage. It was definitely not something that he would stand for, and he was going to see what he could do. Now Naruto-kun, for the real reason as to why I am here. It's clear to me that they plan on not telling you certain events that took place. As the Hokage of Konoha, you are responsible for all people in the village and you have to protect it from both external and internal threats. Naruto merely raised an eyebrow at the comment about internal threats. It was no surprise to Naruto who Itachi was referring to when he said this. Pausing, Itachi then spoke up quietly, but what he said was deafening. I did not go rogue. I did everything on that night under orders from the Sandaime Hokage and the advisors Hamura Mitokado, Koharu Utatane and Danzo Shimura. Naruto was gobsmacked. He wouldn't have guessed something like that. Well, fuck me. That's one hell of a bombshell to drop. I can't imagine what it must have been like going through all of that. I'm sorry for everything that you had to endure. A small part of Itachi was pleased at the fact that Naruto's first thought was for his well-being during that time. It was clear to the former Konoha ninja that Naruto wasn't just someone who followed the orders of Danzo. The will of fire was on clear display. Thank you, Hokage-sama. It was not an easy decision to follow through on, despite knowledge of what was about to come. You see, as the Uchiha clan had been planning a coup d'etat due to the excessive blame placed on them due to the Kyuubi attack. I see. Naruto replied back, all of this information being a lot to take in. One thing that I do wish to ask, but you don't have to answer, is why is Sasuke alive? As much as I am grateful that you left him alive as we became friends, if the plan was to exterminate the entire clan, why not get rid of him as well? That's simple. Because I care for my brother. I beg to be able to let Sasuke remain alive as he was innocent in everything, and my hope is for Sasuke to restore the honor of the Uchiha clan, build it the way it should have been built in the first place. XXX. The role of Hokage was slowly becoming something that Naruto could say that he was getting the hang of. Of course, there was a long time before he could say that he was proficient, and he knew that he was never going to be able to say that he was perfect. Naruto could finally say that he had time to relax and be a human instead of just being a Kage. The Uzumaki had gone to a ramen restaurant called Ichiraku's finally. He had been meaning to go to it for a while now, Jiraiya having mentioned it was a place that his parents visited frequently. Safe to say he was now a convert and was keen to have some more. He had a hard time trying to put on weight given how much energy he burned training and going through puberty. Ramen could help make it easier for the blonde-haired teenager to eat more calories throughout the day. Tsunade had said that if he wanted to make the most of his training after doing a physical on him, then he had to eat as much as possible during these crucial years. Puberty, as far as she was considered, was free anabolic steroids. Given the amount of testosterone running through the body, he needed to make the most of it and put on as much muscle as possible. As he was walking out of the restaurant, Naruto spotted Team 10, his friends from the academy. Hey guys, how's it going? How's the recovery going along, Lee? Naruto questioned with excitement. Flames of youth were burning brightly. Yash, Naruto-kun, I am doing great. Guy-sensei has been helping me out and I am now getting back to where I was before the Chunin exams. Soon I shall be able to resume using weights in training. If I cannot do that, then I will do 500 push-ups, and if I cannot do that, then I will do 200 pull-ups. Lee replied with a great big grin on his face. Given the fact that he had a whole entire new skeletal system that had to be attached to all of the tendons, it was nothing short of outstanding progress for the body who had been told his career as a ninja was long over. That's great. I can't wait for you to get better back to normal so we can spar. Before Naruto could continue down that path, Neji spoke up. Naruto, do you mind if we have a spar? Come on, Neji. He's the Hokage, he doesn't have time for us measly peasants. Tenten said, half joking, half serious, given that the last time she saw Naruto, who she was acquaintances with at the academy, was during his inauguration. Annoyed by this, Naruto replied. He didn't want to distance himself from his friends, it was just that the role of Hokage was one that involved a lot of time and effort. No, I'm cool with that. I haven't been able to loosen up all day. Lee, you want to join in as well? Naruto questioned, and the boy grinned as his teeth shined. Yash Naruto-kun, admittedly Neji wasn't too thrilled when he heard this, as it came across as Naruto diminishing his skills. Sure, he didn't believe in fate as much due to his defeat at the hands of Konohamaru, but for Naruto to think so little of his skills compared to when they were in the academy, well, he was eager to prove Naruto wrong. The fact that he was the Kage of the village was forgotten at this point in time. Tenten was keen to join in as well, as she wanted to test herself against someone who was supposed to be one of the top 5 ninjas in the world. The fact that he was hot was also an added bonus that she was keen on exploring. Time seemed to pass by fairly quickly for the blonde Uzumaki ever since his promotion to the rank of Hokage. With his busy schedule filled to the brim with meetings, assigning missions, politics, and not to mention his training, there was little time for a social life for Naruto. Thankfully for him, that was about to change. He had now finished building the temple on the Uzumaki land, and it was better than ever. In addition to that, the mansion that commenced shortly after, which was to be the house of the clan head, was well under construction. It had 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, with the master bedroom an inside overlooking the backyard and pool, a private study for Naruto, 2 entertaining areas, and a deck overlooking Konoha with a swimming pool just below. Once it was finished built, he planned on having a few of his friends over for some feasts. He had been meaning to catch up with them for a while now. It was hard though, given the tough transitioning time that Konoha was going through, Sunagakure getting agitated at the lack of bijou and being on the losing end of a couple of fights with IWA. IWA also being restless on the borders of Konoha, ever since they found out about Naruto being the son of the Yondaime. In addition to this, the Mizugakure didn't like the fact that he was now the Hokage, as it meant that one of their most infamous bloodlines was now in the hands of an enemy village. Last but not least, there was the reformation that was scheduled to happen anytime soon. It was the reason why Jiraiya was stationed inside the village indefinitely for the time being, much to the man's dismay. So Takeo, are you sure you are ready for this? Your grandfather isn't here, so please be honest with me. Naruto said as he stared into the eyes of the academy student in front of him. There was no sign of doubt or fear. Yes, Hokage-sama. This is something that will need to be done for the village, and if there is a burden needed, then I am willing to endure it for the prosperity of Konoha. The black-haired boy resolutely responded as he stared into the eyes of his Kage. Naruto nodded. The decision he was about to make was not one that was easy. There were many variables at play, but there was at least the solace in the fact that Naruto was not giving this burden to someone who was unwilling. Alright then, Takeo, before we make the final decision, I want you to have one spar with me. Sure, I have read all of the reports of you from the academy, but I want to see how well that all translates to a real-life combat situation. Takeo merely nodded. He then sprinted off towards Naruto with his katana blade outstretched in one hand, whilst his other one went to his pouch and flung 2 shuriken at the blonde. Naruto could faintly see the outline of wind-laced chakra on the blades and was impressed. It was clear to see that the new training plan for the academy was going well if this was the outcome. He was not naive enough to think that the boy's shinobi education was solely due to the academy. The kid's grandfather was Danzo after all, and when he was the main role model given his parents dying in conflict, even if he wasn't around that much. Naruto formed a bone blade in response from his forearm and parried away the shuriken with ease. It didn't take long before he had to block the next attack from Takeo as he blocked the swipe of the sword. I'm impressed. We don't teach one how to channel their element into their weapon. It seems like you have been practicing very hard. You've still got a long way to go though with your element. Naruto replied as he channeled his own fire-natured chakra into the sword and watched it turn ablaze. So that's the level I need to get to, Takeo thought to himself with renewed vigor as he took the powerful hit to his sword. The vibrations came reverberating into his hands. Note to self, evade, not dodge. The strength he can output is impressive. Takeo dodged the next swipe and countered it with a sweeping leg kick. He quickly followed up with upward strike with his blade. Naruto saw this coming though and moved out of the way after jumping up over the outstretched leg. Naruto was impressed so far with the ability on show from Takeo. His kenjutsu was good and so was his control over his element. His speed was above average but not at the same level that either he or Lee were at that age. The accuracy displayed with shuriken was nothing less than expected from someone whose grandfather was Danzo, a man who was big on the basics. Putting space between the two, Naruto quickly went through hand seals with one hand and let off a small fireball that he fully expected Takeo to dodge. He wanted to see the reaction. It was clear for both of them to see that a head-on kenjutsu fight wasn't going to work. Futon, Daitapa, wind release, great breakthrough, the academy student called out as he channeled chakra into his mouth and breathed out the air. Naruto had to take a step back, it was that powerful. If he had to, he could have stood there and taken it on full bore, but there was no real need to do that. Having seen enough, in addition to his very busy schedule, Naruto decided it was time to end this. With the bone still in his hand from the beginning, he moved in a speed that Takeo couldn't follow and appeared behind the boy, the bone pressed distinctly into his neck. That was good, Takeo. I'm certain that you will become a great shinobi as you grow up. This fight is over though. Takeo for his part nodded, but on the inside he was bursting with pride. Despite trying to emulate the stoicism of his grandfather, getting praise from a Kage no less was nothing short of making the boy giddy. Thanks Hokage-sama, that means a lot to me. I'll be sure to make you proud and be of service to Konoha. The boy bowed. If you keep going the way you are, you definitely will. Anyway, see ya. Naruto responded before quickly using the shunshin with small embers left in his wake. XXX. I'm ready for the next meeting now. Naruto called out to his receptionist. There was no acknowledgement except for a few seconds later when the door opened. In walked a lady who didn't seem much older than he was, and he had to admit that she was very attractive. Short blonde hair that just below her jawline was accompanied by piercing blue eyes. She also had a curvaceous figure with creamy white skin. The blonde-haired lady in front of him was wearing a black long-sleeved dress that stopped just before her knees. Despite the fact that she had no cleavage showing, Naruto could tell that she was very blessed genetically. In fact, the person in front of him reminded Naruto of a young Tsunade. To what do I owe the pleasure of your visit, miss? Naruto trailed off as he gestured for the woman in front of him to take a seat. Once sat down, the woman looked Naruto directly in the eyes. My name is Samui and I am a Chunin from Kumogakure. Straight into the point was Samui as when she said this, she noticed that Naruto's relaxed demeanor quickly turned into business mode. I see Samui, well my name is Naruto Uzumaki and it is nice to meet you. The Hokage replied before extending his hand out. A deft handshake was shared between the two that Samui let her fingers trail along Naruto's palm as it was released. Now what can I do for you? It is not normal that I get visitors from Kumogakure in my office. Naruto questioned. He still felt odd calling the room that they were in his office, but it was something that he was sure he would have the hang of saying shortly. Hokage-sama, I have been requested by Reikage-sama to see if the possibility of a diplomatic envoy could be stationed within Konoha and vice versa. This is a request that has also been personally desired also by the daimyo of the Land of Lightning. He is also in the process formally approaching the Hai no Kuni Fire daimyo with this proposal. Samui reported as she handed the two scrolls in her hand to Naruto. The Hokage could easily see the official seals and emblems from the Lightning Daimyo. Internally he groaned. Seeing those made it that much harder to say no, as the daimyo was a very powerful man. There was also his own that he had to consider. I see. This is not something that can be considered lightly, and it will take time for an answer to be reached. As you can imagine, this is something that will be hard for Konoha and in particular the Hyuga clan to agree to. Additionally, how can we not expect for actions that have happened in the past to happen once more? After all, Kumogakure does have a track record of kidnapping young girls from Konoha. A firm stare was given when Naruto said this, and he looked directly into the eyes of Samui. Despite her calm exterior, Samui gulped. The stare that she was getting was unnerved her, to say the least. Those blue eyes made it was like staring into the ice wall that she was so well known for back home. I can't speak on behalf of former actions taken place by Kumogakure, as I was just entering the academy when the most recent one took place and don't know enough details. What I can say though will hopefully ease your fears of anything like that happening again. The intended belief from the Raikage and the Land of Lightning daimyo is that if it is okay, I will become the diplomatic envoy between Konoha and Kumogakure. I personally find the actions of kidnapping for bloodline usage to be an incredibly immoral action, and it is something that I refuse to do. Samui resolutely replied. She didn't approve of the actions made by the Raikage to steal children, but she couldn't make him look bad. She had to be careful with what she said. Thank you for that. It's a start to repairing the fractured relationship between the two villages. Naruto responded before opening up the two scrolls from Samui. He spent 3 minutes reading the messages. Thank you for these. Now, as I said, I will not be able to make these decisions right away. Seeing a dismissal, Samui nodded. I don't expect you to come to a decision right now, Hokage-sama. Thank you for your time. Samui said as the two of them got up, and as she gave the teenager in front of her a handshake, she looked at his lips and the tiniest of smirks appeared on her face. It didn't hurt that he was quite attractive. XXX. Inside the private training ground of the Hokage, Naruto was found working through his training. He was in the midst of sparring against two of his own jutsus. Leoric, a creation made 6 months ago, a skeleton with a sword and shield that can take the utmost punishment and keep resurrecting himself. Clinks the Bone Fletcher, a crafty and dangerous skeleton with a fire inside of him able to fire off arrows of bone lit on fire. Each time he used the jutsu, the summons became better as he had more knowledge on how to get the most out of them. Naruto had been briefly in contact with Ino on how to impart independent thought onto the jutsus he was creating. He was regretting that at this point, as he had managed to barely dodge an incoming attack from Clinks, the damn long-ranged specialist was able to fire the arrows at a rapid pace and they were damn hard to dodge. He had to do that though because they were even more painful. Standing right in the path of Leoric, who was swinging his sword. Shit! Naruto exclaimed and fired off his drilling finger grenades at the Skeleton King. Leoric brought down his shield and protected himself from the damage from the explosions. Not even waiting past the point where the smoke had been cleared, Leoric sprinted off to Naruto and engaged in a fierce battle. Bringing up the bones his forearm, Naruto blocked the sword and slashed his other arm into the exposed ribcage. This did not bother the Skeleton King one bit, as he had no flesh. All the while this was happening, he continually had to dodge incoming arrows from Clinks. Raisin Shuriuden. Spiraling Grenade. Naruto called out as he formed a white sphere of bone with something inside of it in his hand before shoving it in the chest of Leoric and watched it detonate. It exploded and completely eviscerated the Skeleton King. All bones fell onto the ground, and if there was flesh, there would be none by now. Naruto was panting and held up his palm in the direction of Clinks, requesting that training was over for now. The spiraling grenade was a technique that he was still working on, so it took a decent amount of focus and chakra to get it right. I see the potential for all of your techniques to rapidly improve with Sage Mode, Naruto-kun. Crixalis stated. He had been watching the fight with the two summons with Naruto. The Sand King had a vested interest in watching Naruto create those two fighters out of bone and had a part in their creation. He had two friends from long ago that were much the same. Yeah, Naruto said as he straightened up. Leoric at this point was recollecting himself and came back to life. He immediately noticed the fight had stopped. I've managed to get Sage Mode down when I am sitting down meditating next to Aghanim's scepter. I've been working on gathering nature chakra outside of the summoning realm. The Scorpion King nodded. Becoming a sage was never an easy task and only the best ever managed to do. Given the pressures on Naruto and the amount of time he had to practice on his training, he was well on his way. The fact that his body was in tip-top physical condition only further served to help in balancing the foreign chakra. Also, I've worked out that I can only handle the Raisin Shiryuden when I have my full exoskeleton, otherwise my arm just gets shredded to the bone. For now, focus on getting Sage Mode as much as possible. At this point your ninjutsu and your taijutsu are already good, especially your taijutsu. You need to reach S-rank status as quickly as possible to become a threat to the big hitters in the world. It was one thing to have it muttered by other jonin in the village. It was another thing entirely when your summon boss says the same thing. Being an elite jonin by 15 years old was impressive, but obviously it wasn't enough in the eyes of many. Right. I have been taking special focus to expand my chakra reserves and build as much as possible recently. I heard from Tsunade-san that puberty is the best time to do this due to hormones. Naruto said as he reseated his exoskeleton jutsu. The blonde-haired boy was gassed and was looking forward to some food and sleep. The conversation soon ended with the boss summon of the Scorpion clan going back home, and it left Naruto by himself. With his stomach giving him orders, Naruto headed out to get some food. If he wanted to build more muscle for his taijutsu and build more chakra reserves for his ninjutsu, then he needed to eat. There was a bar that also served a whole bunch of food nearby that he thought he would go to. Admittedly, he didn't really see the appeal in the place, but he knew that it was a frequent spot for ninjas to go out to celebrate a night off. He wanted to boost his perception with his ninja force and the greater population of Konoha. As he walked in, Naruto eyed out a spot at the bar and tapped a person on the shoulder. "Excuse me, is it okay if I sit here?" Turning around, the person was shocked to find that it's their boss. "Of course, Hokage-sama. Please, sit here," Hana Inuzuka mentioned as she moved herself over slightly to give the Kage more room. "You don't have to call me Hokage-sama, I'm off duty. Please, call me Naruto-san," Naruto replied with a smile on his face. A tinge of red appeared on the face of Hana that wasn't due to her clan markings when she looked at the face of Naruto. She saw his blue eyes and large smile. She also happened to be 3 daiquiris in at this point. "Okay then, Naruto-san. So what brings you here?" As he listened to Hana's question, he noticed that she was quite attractive. Normally, he only saw her in her medic uniform as she was reporting about the medical training she was helping out Tsunade-san at the hospital and the academy with. Now she was wearing a white sleeveless blouse with a v-neck that showed off a fair amount of cleavage. She was also wearing a black skirt. All of this combined with the prominent red lipstick she had applied made her quite stunning. "Well, I just finished my training for the day and now need to get some food." It was clockwork at this point that his stomach grumbled and Hana giggled and placed her hand on Naruto's forearm. The blonde raised an eyebrow but didn't make any mention of it. "Alright then, you have to get the pork knuckle. It's the best. And what are you going to get to drink?" Hana exuberantly mentioned, to which Naruto nodded with a small grin on his face. "Okay, I'll get the pork knuckle. As for a drink, well, I'm going to be getting a chocolate milkshake." Hana was shocked when she heard this. "What? No alcohol?" Naruto solemnly nodded. "Can't drink on the job." It was the go-to excuse that he always used when he didn't want to drink alcohol. He had a busy day tomorrow with meetings in regards to the creation of a Jinchuriki, and he couldn't attend those in any form of inebriation. Sure, it was only one drink, but that could lead to a rabbit hole that he never claws his way out of. "Ah, that sucks. Guess I will just have to have one for you. 2 daiquiris please, bartender." Hana shouted out to the bartender, who nodded. Then he noticed the person sitting down next to one of his regulars. "Hokage-sama, thank you for coming here, is there anything that I can get for you?" Naruto then rattled off his order. Normally they didn't serve milkshakes, but when your Hokage orders it, you do. He was going to have to send one of the retired ninjas on a quick errand to go get one from the ice shop nearby. As the bartender walked away to go and give the order to the kitchen, Naruto turned to Hana. "So how is everything going?" Naruto asked the open-ended question to allow Hana to talk about whatever she wanted and then he could go from there. "Well, training is going great. I'm getting close to becoming a special jonin in the medical arts thanks to hanging around Tsunade and picking her brain. The academy is going great as well as the kids are eager to learn about how to heal one another. My little brother Kiba got promoted to Chunin recently, so I have to get this rank of special jonin so I can still be top dog over him," Hana said as she realized she had started rambling and didn't want to annoy the Kage. The patient look he had on his face made her blush as despite him being an incredibly powerful shinobi, the way he was paying attention to her made her feel as if they were the only two people in the room. "That's great. I remember Kiba, I gave him the flak jacket 2 weeks ago after the trip to Taki. He was also in my first Chunin exams, haha. He's improved quite a bit since then. Yes, Tsunade-bashan is great at helping people despite her being rough around the edges." Hahaha. Hana giggled once more and then took the last sip of her daiquiri, shortly before the bartender handed the two she just ordered. "You call the strongest woman in the world Bachan? That must have gone down well the first time you called her that." There was a smirk on the face of Naruto. "As well as you can imagine. She punched me with her super strength the first time I called her that. I had bruises from that for 2 weeks straight that I had to get my assistant to put makeup over as Tsunade refused to heal the damage, haha. Why is that so funny? Surely that would have hurt." Hana mused with a smile showing her canines. "It hurt a fucking lot," Naruto exclaimed, surprising the Inuzuka woman, only further serving to confuse the brunette. "The reason why I'm laughing is because of what happened to give me the nickname Bachan to her." "Come on, you can't just tell me that and not give me the full story," Hana replied with mirth as she once again placed her hand on Naruto, this time on his thigh that was closest to her. "I had to go speak to Jiraiya, who was my godfather and essentially a grandfather in all but blood. I didn't let him know beforehand that I was coming over, and when I got there, I found Tsunade kissing down the chest of Jiraiya in a, let's say, rather revealing outfit. The smirk on the face of Jiraiya as he noticed me told me that this was not a one-time thing." "Ahahaha." Hana started laughing and she inadvertently pressed her cleavage into the side of Naruto and squeezed his leg as she was laughing. The blonde Hokage would have had to be blind if he didn't notice this. At this point in time, he was insanely hungry and that was more important. "Here you go, here is the food and drinks. Is there anything else that we can do for you, Hokage-sama?" The bartender as he brought out the food. "No thank you, this looks great though." After this, a silence settled between the two, with occasional words being said as Naruto focused on the food in front of him whilst Hana focused on the two daiquiris. Once his stomach was full and the glass the milkshake was in was empty, Naruto turned to Hana. "Hey Hana, I have a busy day tomorrow so I have to leave soon. Would you like to come back to my place and to have coffee?" Naruto returned the favor as he said this as he placed his hand on the top of, verging on inner thigh of Hana. Hana let off a smirk that showed her canines. "It'd be my pleasure, Naruto-kun." She thought she had been pretty forward and direct with the moves she made earlier, and as Naruto was eating, she was wondering whether or not he was either naive or not interested. This squashed all of those thoughts. Picking up her drink, Hana finished the rest of her drink, which impressed Naruto. The Kage placed money on the table to cover his food and drink whilst Hana did the same for her tab. As she got up off of the bar stool, Hana stumbled 2 steps as she didn't realize how drunk she was. Naruto quickly grabbed onto her wrist to stabilize the girl. "Let's get out of here, shall we?" the Uzumaki questioned, and he got a nod in response. XXX. The duo soon found themselves at Naruto's home and he immediately kissed Hana on the lips, to which she responded greedily. "What, no coffee? I'm disappointed," Hana mentioned before she kissed Naruto again. "As if you were ever interested in coffee. We both know what you want," Naruto replied with a smirk on his face and brazenly groped one of the ass cheeks of the Inuzuka with his left hand and pulled her firmly into his body. She moaned in pleasure as she felt the erection, and she wasn't disappointed at all. In fact, she was very much excited. "The question is whether or not you can give me what I want," the brunette said as she ran her hand down the chest of Naruto and lightly grazed the clothes covering his manhood. "I'm not sure about what you want, but I can definitely give you what you need." With one hand on her arse, Naruto used the other one to trail up the white sleeveless blouse and let it rest just before her breast. His thumb ran up the cup of her bra and found something prodding out of the fabric and run his thumb over it. Ugh! Hana moaned, which was all Naruto needed to continue what he was doing. Each time he did it, his hand got more brazen, and soon, he was cupping her breast with his hand, kissing her jawline and making his way ever so slowly down the valley of her exposed chest. The hand that was once on Hana's ass had moved towards the hem of her shirt and slowly started pulling the blouse up. Naruto let go of her breasts enough so that he could pull the garment up and over them. Hana released her arms up in the air, making it easy for Naruto to take it off. The second it was off, Naruto threw it to the ground and grabbed the wrists of Hana that were still in the air roughly. Not sure what was about to happen, the Inuzuka's heart started racing. The Hokage of Konoha slammed his prey into the wall and watched with glee as her chest bounced back up at him. With her hands up in the air, the brunette was at the mercy of Naruto, and she absolutely loved it. Naruto made it so that one hand was holding two of Hana's hostage. It was hot because whilst she was under his mercy, she knew that she could break out of the rather loose hold Naruto had on her body. She didn't have any plan of doing that anytime soon. With a hand free, Naruto moved it to the back strap of the creamy white bra that Hana was wearing. It took 3 goes, but it was undone. Naruto released Hana's hands and allowed the garment to fall to the ground before quickly grasping her hands and pressing them above her head and her body back into the wall. A moan of anticipation escaped her lips as she waited with bated breath of what was about to happen. Wow! Naruto couldn't help but marvel at the first pair of breasts that he had seen in real life. Without wasting time, Naruto moved his mouth to one of the exposed nipples and ever so slowly licked it. The moan of pleasure he got from Hana further served to increase his actions as he became more confident in his abilities. Getting impatient, Hana spoke up through the pleasure. "I need more, Naruto-kun, you need to give me more." She ground her hips hard into the throbbing erection pressed into her. She broke out of the hold and started undoing the shirt of Naruto, very much pleased with his muscular physique. "Turn around," Naruto called out as Hana had her hands on her skirt and was about to pull it down. A smirk appeared on her face and she did as she was commanded. "Yes, Hokage-sama. Anything for you, Hokage-sama." The Inuzuka woman replied as she bent over as she took of the skirt and emphasized sticking her butt back as she took it down. It was clear for Naruto to see the white lacy thong that had a significant wet patch on it. When she turned around, Hana found Naruto naked and fully erect. "Yes, you can definitely give me what I want and need," Hana said as she motioned forward and deftly caught the condom that Naruto chucked her. Before putting it on her kage, Hana quickly took off her G-string. "Where's your bedroom?" The duo quickly made their way there and Naruto was excited to say the least. The Chunin fell onto the bed first facing Naruto and watched as he climbed between her legs. Hana didn't think much of it as she grabbed Naruto's penis, but for Naruto, this was the first time someone other than himself had touched it. It was exhilarating. Once the condom was placed on, Hana made a motion for Naruto to stick it in. "Ugh, that feels so good, Naruto-kun." Hana moaned out as she felt the penis enter her body. Naruto was marveling the sensation of sex and could definitely now see why Jiraiya was so in love with it. "You're so wet, Hana-chan," Naruto replied as he pushed all the way in until his hips were touching hers. "You made me this way, Hokage-sama. Feel how wet you made me. Now stop fucking teasing me and fuck me," the Chunin demanded of her Hokage. Hearing the name Hokage-sama made Naruto grin and further served to turn him on. He liked being in a position of power. Pulling his hips back, he guided his cock back inside of the pussy. Each thrust increased the pace until the duo found a steady rhythm. Both were making noises showcasing how much they enjoyed it. "Yes. Just like that, Hokage-sama. Keep doing that, I'm going to come soon," Hana exclaimed. She had moved her hand down to her clit during the sex and fervently rubbed herself as she neared her orgasm. Alcohol only made the woman even hornier. Ugh, I'm getting real close to Hana-chan. Naruto panted as since this was his first time, his stamina wasn't the greatest. The sensations he was feeling were getting all too intense. Keep going, Naruto-kun, keep going. I'm getting so close that you can't stop. I need you. Hearing that was like poison as what little resistance Naruto had left was gone, and he moaned harshly as he came deep into the condom. This tipped over Hana as she let out all of her pent-up horniness and convulsed around the cock inside of her. Her toes curling, her body spasming, and she dug her nails deep into the back of Naruto and heard him hiss from the pain. She didn't care though, as she had a great orgasm. That was intense. Hana nodded with a big grin on her face. Yep, I haven't had one of them in a while. Is it okay if I use your toilet? Yeah, sure, Naruto mentioned, despite the fact that he was not fully with it. He was now coming to the realization that he was no longer a virgin, and it felt pretty damn good. XXX. We can do this sometime soon, yeah? Hana questioned. She had gotten dressed and was at the front door looking back at Naruto. For sure. Naruto agreed. He was keen to experience that again. Okay then, and see ya, Hokage-sama. Hana said before kissing her boss one final time before heading home.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.